Hello, everyone. Hope we're all doing all right so far. Let everyone's audio connect here. A few more people coming in. How is everyone doing tonight or this morning, wherever you are? A little tired? Me too. It is 10 o'clock at night here, and that is normally my bedtime. So we all just finished class. How was class? Oh, writing class. Is writing class very difficult, or do you guys enjoy it? Busy? Yeah, I know it is that time in the term that everyone just gets crazy busy. But thank you all so much for taking time to come to the workshop. I hope that it's very helpful for you, especially everyone in IE Fast moving forward. And you're about to take your exam in a couple weeks. So hopefully this helps set you up for an easier time on your exam. Going to get my PowerPoint set up here. Can everyone see the screen all right? I hope so. Yeah, just a thumbs up or a smiley face in the chat just to say that you can see everything. Yeah, awesome, thank you. All right, so welcome everyone to the Study Skills and Test Taking Strategies workshop. So I'm Allison, for those of you who haven't met me yet. I am your student advisor here with the Renison English Language Institute. A bit of a fun fact about me is that I just graduated from the University of Waterloo last year, so in October of 2020. So all of the skills and strategies that I'm going to teach you today, a lot of them are things that I wish I knew going into university and things that I wish I could have used more. And some of them are things that I did use all the time. And it really helped make a big difference in my learning and my grades. So hopefully you guys get something out of it. So we're going to be talking about some strategies for successful and less stressful tests and exams. And as always, if you have any questions or you want me to repeat anything or you would like me to slow down at all, feel free to just interrupt me or send a message in the chat, and I am more than happy to go over anything or clarify anything for you. Perfect. So I want to start with just a quick question. What is the most difficult thing about studying for you? What's something that kind of gets in the way or makes it less enjoyable or more stressful? I'll give you a couple minutes. Now we're a small group. Distractions, for sure. Can we get maybe 5 answers, 5 examples? They don't even have to be brand new things. You can, if you agree with someone else, you can say that too. But distractions are definitely a big one. Time limits, for sure. The workload, definitely. Alina is carrying the team today. The difficulty, for sure. Balancing entertainment time and study time is definitely something that's difficult. Something to remember. So maybe, yeah, remembering and memorizing, for sure. So it is very easy to forget things that have been written down or that we're trying to study or learn. So it's definitely a big thing. Yeah, thank you all so much for your input. So as we go through a bunch of the ways that studying is difficult for us, we need to remember that that isn't how it has to be. So we don't always have to be stressed or worried about tests and things like that. There are always ways that we can improve, and we can talk about ways to change how we feel about test taking. So part 1, we are going to make a study plan. So just like if you're driving a car and you're going somewhere new, using a study plan is a lot like looking at a map before you leave. So maybe if you just closed your eyes and tried to drive to a new destination, it's going to be very stressful and you're not really going to make all the right turns and know exactly where to go. But if you look at a map beforehand, you're a lot more relaxed because you know which turns are coming up and when, and it makes for a lot smoother of a ride. So when you make a study plan, you're basically just making a map for yourself to succeed on the test. So you'll be a lot less stressed and things will come to you a lot easier. So the first step in making your study plan is the most important one. So do not procrastinate. If you're anything like me, procrastination could be a part of your name. So we don't want to do that. So when you are studying for a test, you want to plan for your test 2 to 3 weeks in advance. So being at this workshop is a really good start for you. And kudos to you for doing that. Also for IEFAS, like we said before, you're going to have your exam in a couple weeks. So starting your study plan now is a great way to get started on preparing for that exam. I know some of you had questions about it in your check-in meetings this week. So starting now is a great way to begin preparing. If you don't plan for your test, you will feel more stressed as you approach the test date. So some people like to say that they work better under pressure, but when you get that close to a test date and you're studying just a day or two beforehand, all you're doing is memorizing the information. So that can easily be lost while you're taking the test, just before it, just after. So you want to take the time to really understand what you're learning and what you're studying. That way you can actually apply it in other ways that might be on the test or you might come across later in a different class. So you want to be sure that you are really taking in and absorbing the information, which takes a long time. And that's why we want to work on that 2 to 3 weeks in advance. So where should you start? Your study plan should answer these 4 questions. So number 1, when are you going to study? We also want to know, where are you going to study? What are you going to study? And the most important one is how you're going to study. So once you answer all of these questions in your study plan, and we'll go into a little more detail about each of them in a minute, then you'll be able to really follow it and get into a better flow for studying and preparing for your tests. So step number 2, when am I going to study? If you don't know when you'll be studying, it's very easy to put off. Just like if you were at the time management workshop and we talked about not writing down your study times or not your exam dates and your assignment deadlines, then they're very easy to forget. So if you write down where you're studying or what time you're studying at in the day, then you are more obligated to stick with it. And on your study plan sheet, you should schedule blocks of time to study each week. And I know you don't have a study plan sheet in front of you yet, but I am about to send you one. And with this sheet, hopefully it works and will be available to each of you. I know sometimes it doesn't always work through Zoom, and Zoom doesn't want me to send it right now anyway. So I will just send that in the chat afterwards. Hopefully it will work then, and it will also be posted on the hub later on. So we can go through it then. So sorry. So with the times that you are scheduling on your study plan sheet, you also want to make sure that you are marking these times down in your calendar app or your day planner. That way you are constantly reminded of the times that you have set aside to study, and you're not making other plans over them and you're not forgetting about them. Especially if you use a calendar app, then it can send you reminders for when you should start studying. As humans, our brains also love habits. So we learn better if we study at the same time each day. So if you know that you're someone who studies best right after class, so your class ends at 10, you take a quick snack and then you head right into studying, that's a great way to do it. You know, you can study from maybe 10 until 2. If you're more of a night owl and you like studying later in the day just before you go to bed, then maybe studying from 9 until midnight is what's going to work best for you. So you want to make sure that it's a time that is pretty much always free for you so that your body can get into the habit of studying and learning at that time each day. Sorry, I've also had the hiccups all day, so that might happen a few times. A study plan will also help you study at regular times throughout the week. So you want to, like I said, be sure to plan them around the same time and just get used to being in the habit of studying. So you also want to make sure that you are being specific. So you want to write down the exact time and length of time that you will be studying each day. So as people, we normally have a limited attention span. Most adults can only focus for 40 to 50 minutes before they need a short break. Some people take a little bit less, but on average, 40 to 50 minutes is pretty good. So in that time, you might want to use the apps like we talked about before, like the Forest app or a timer app, just to make sure that you cut yourself off at that 40 or 50 minute mark. Take your 10-minute break to stand up, walk around, check Instagram, eat a snack, and then come right back to it. So this way you stay focused for that time, and then you get a bit of a reward later on. After about 2 or 3 hours, most of us will also need a longer break to have a meal, stretch your legs, relax. So it's always good to make sure that you have that time set aside afterwards. So when we're scheduling our study time, you want to try to schedule for 2 to 3 hour study sessions, but make sure that you include short breaks for 5 to 10 minutes each every hour or two, and then longer breaks afterwards when you're done. So you're not studying for 3 hours straight and then going into studying another class for another 3 hours. So you want to make sure you have at least 30 minutes to an hour in between each block of studying. So where are we going to study? Can anyone tell me why this isn't a great place to make your study space? I can think of a few reasons. Too messy, untidy, and it makes it annoying, definitely. So just as important as when we're going to study, you're going to study is where we're going to study. And it has a bed. Yeah, definitely. That is a good point. I know if I study in my bedroom or even in my bed, then I am more likely to take a nap instead of focusing on my books. So definitely taking that out as a distraction, and so many things around. So it's a distraction, definitely. So when we are picking our study space, we want it to be quiet, clean, organized, and free from those distractions. So this room is probably one of the worst places to study. It should also have all of the supplies that you'll need. So if you are leaving your house to go and study somewhere, go through a little checklist in your head of thinking, do I have my books, my pens, my pencils, my laptop, my charger, everything that you could possibly need to have a successful study session. So some good places to study are a clean, quiet room in your house, a clean or quiet dorm room or apartment, if that's where you are, a table outside if the weather is nice, or any other place where you won't get distracted. If your best study spot is your bedroom or somewhere in your house, a little tip that I like to use is that I give myself 15 to 20 minutes before I start studying, just to quickly tidy up everything around me. That way I can't get distracted by it while I'm studying. So if I have to study in my room or when I was in a dorm room, I would make my bed and put all my clothes away before I started doing anything. That way, if I'm looking around, there's nothing to bring me up from my chair and take me away from my work. So where else are we going to study? Human beings are very easily distracted. Every time you're distracted, it can actually take up to 2 or 3 minutes for you to refocus. A study at the University of Texas found that the presence of a cell phone nearby, even if it's turned off, reduces your ability to concentrate. I can tell you that this is true because mine is sitting right beside me and I keep looking over thinking that something's going to happen when nobody is messaging me. So regardless of notifications, it's still a big distraction. Students whose phone was in another room performed significantly better than students who had their phone within arm's reach. So we want to minimize our distractions, and our phone is our biggest one for the vast majority of us at this point. So we want to remove it from us and put it as far away and as uneasily distractible, I guess, as possible. So we have a saying in English that's out of sight, out of mind. So when you can't see your phone or any of your distractions, then you won't be thinking about them as much. So what are we going to do? First of all, we're going to turn off our phone. And just in case you thought I was joking, you're still going to turn off your phone. You should also put your phone in another room or have someone else hold on to it for you, maybe a roommate or a family member. So if you go to try and check it before your hour of studying is up, they can deny you of it, and you have to go back and prove that you were really working before they give you your cell phone back. You should also try to use only paper, books, and pens for studying. So avoid using electronic devices when possible. And I know what you're all thinking is that we are working online. Everyone's studying online. Your classes are online. How could you possibly study without a computer? Which is a fair question. But sometimes even taking handwritten notes or using textbooks or notebooks makes it easier for you to remember your information, and it takes away the distraction of using a laptop. So with your laptops, you'll have your Discord chats coming up or Facebook notifications. So being able to eliminate that and work just by pen and paper can really help and benefit you in that way. And it makes your notes a little more personal when you have to write them down and make sure that they look nice and they're legible. So that's just a little tip that I like to use. But if you do have to use a laptop or tablet, make sure that you turn off your notifications or disconnect from the internet. If you have to stay connected to the internet, maybe delete some apps or log out of your accounts or turn off all of your notifications so that you're not distracted by those. Did you have a question? I guess no. But yeah, with Learn and taking notes online, you should also be able to download everything that you might need and use that without the internet as well. So all of your teachers' PowerPoints that they have posted, you shouldn't have to use the internet to access them. They should be able to just be found right on your computer. So don't worry, the internet will still be there when you're done. All of your notifications, all of your group chats, they're not going anywhere. So you will still be able to catch up on everything that you missed right when you're finished. Now we'll move on to what are you going to study? So how do you know what to study? I know it can be very daunting to look at all of your notes and wonder where to begin. There's a few good ways to find out. The easiest one is just to go to class. So your instructor will teach you the things that you need to know for a test. It's really that simple. I know a lot of instructors will also take time to review before an exam or stop in the middle of a lesson to say, this is something that will be on the test. So going to your lectures or watching your lectures and taking note of that, maybe putting a star beside it on your notes, very important. Another is to review your course syllabus, your notes, and lecture slides to see what problems the teacher focused on. And the more that something is covered, the more likely it is that it will be on the exam. So if your teacher spent 2 days going over solving one problem, that's probably going to be an exam question. And what readings were you assigned in your textbook or in other sources? So if your teacher is giving you certain readings or certain articles, you can use those as an idea of what you likely will have to study, especially if what you're reading overlaps with something that your teacher said in class. That will almost definitely be on an exam. You can also use the questions printed in the textbook or any worksheets that your teachers have given you to study and help guide what you plan on working on. So these will likely be the basis of exam questions, or they're just good ways to practice what you're learning in the class. And I've been talking for a while. Is everyone still here? Are we still good? Awesome. Perfect. I'm glad no one's falling asleep yet. So what are we going to study? If you're stuck on what you're supposed to be studying, you can always talk to your instructor or your TA and just ask them what you should focus on. Your instructor obviously wrote the exam. Your TA knows exactly what the questions are. They are the best resource for this. So going to their office hours or sending them an email, asking to make an appointment to see them. These are really great strategies. Even just following up with them after the class and asking what you should focus on or how they think it is best to prepare. These are really great ways to get that information. Another option is to book a virtual meetup with myself or a peer leader. And we can kind of go through your notes and your readings and help you highlight the things that you think are the most important and what you should be focusing on. Another option is to go to online help sessions. So a bunch of you have already heard of the Writing and Communication Center. So they are able to help you with any writing or papers that you have and help with editing and going over what's actually expected on your assignments. Some classes have old exams and practice problems that you can get. So engineering and math have their own exam banks. So you can always use those and go through and see, because a lot of times your exam is based off of a previous exam. So once you go through one of those, you'll know what to expect going into your new exam. How are we going to study? This is the final step. So depending on the course content, most courses can be grouped into two broad categories, either conceptual or practical. So conceptual courses, also known as survey courses, contain many different types of concepts and theories that are all interconnected. So conceptual courses often involve a lot of reading, writing, reports, and presentations. Some examples of these are history, sociology, psychology, biology, geology, environment, and literature. This was also my program in school, social development studies, or anything in that realm. Those would also be conceptual courses. A practical course are courses that usually involve demonstrating your ability to find a solution to a problem and are based on structured logical systems and methods. So that's going to be your mathematics, chemistry, computer sciences, languages. So just like you guys are in right now, EFAS, BASE, EMLS, any other language that you might be learning, or labs. So when you're studying for a conceptual course, some of these study methods can be very effective. So flashcards and memorization, which is a great tool that's often underutilized by students. This was the one that I used the most in my studying. So with the pictures that you see here, you can see someone was studying for their elements exam. So because people are very visual learners, they drew little pictures to help them remember what each element was. And then the way that they work is that you can either write a term with, what's that called? The definition on the other side, or a theory and write out the theory on the other side. You could even use it as writing a problem and the solution on the back, things like that. They're really great to do. You can buy them in really big packs of like over 100, or just cut them out of regular paper or cardboard, and they're super easy to use. You can also take them on the go, hand them to someone else and ask them to help you study, and then you just put them in piles of, I know these and I don't know these, and then you just keep going through them until you get them all down. Another method is concept maps. So how are different concepts related to each other? So in these, they are if you've ever heard of a mind map, is what they're also called, where you have the big concept or the big idea right in the middle of the page, and everything else that you learn, you show how it's connected in strands coming off of the big centerpiece. So those are also really great to see how everything is related to each other and what concepts go with what theory or what idea. You can practice short answer and essay questions in textbooks or worksheets. So those are always great to use. So just maybe putting a timer on and trying to answer the question as thoroughly as possible under a certain amount of time, because all of your exams will be done with a strict time limit as well. Finally, you can teach what you have learned to someone else and quiz each other. So studies have shown that people try harder to understand the material when they have to explain it to someone else. So if you need to teach your friend what you've learned in class, you're going to pay more attention to the concepts, because then you're not only responsible for your learning, but you're responsible for theirs too. And if you are in a practical course, you really have to practice. It's in the name. Practice, practice, practice. But what does practice look like? It's a good question. So you can use practice problems or exercises from the textbook, worksheets, past quizzes, and midterms, which might be something that you're all looking at right now, especially using your Pebble pads and feedback that you've received from your teachers before you have your exam. Just going through that and rewriting something you've already written or practicing that way. If you're in math or engineering and you're fortunate enough to have exam banks, you can always use those, and that's a great way to continue your practicing. You can also make sure that you have an answer key or someone who knows the subject well, who can review your work. So a TA, a tutor, or a trusted study partner. And if you're stuck, review your notes and textbook, or get some help with a tutoring session or office hours. Just remember that there are always resources to help you and always someone who will go over concepts with you. So make sure that you take advantage of everything that's available and ask as many questions as you need to until you understand. So does all of that make sense to everyone? Have you learned maybe one or two different ways to study and, generally how you're going to work out your study plan? We've got about 25 minutes left, so I'm just going to go through the next part of preparing your body and your mind. So just as important as knowing what you're going to be studying and knowing when, you also want to make sure that you are taking care of yourself, because we can't perform our best if our body and our mind are tired and undernourished and not ready to do what we need them to do. So preparing mentally and physically for the exam. Have a plan for your studying. So what we just went through, always good to have. Have a regular sleep cycle. So getting enough sleep, it's about 7 to 9 hours per night, is good for most adults. It's important, but also so is having a regular sleep cycle. Humans have a circadian rhythm, which means that our bodies like to be active and rest at the same time every day. So that means waking up around the same time. Maybe you wake up at 8 a.m. and you go to bed at 10 or 11 p.m. each night. And keeping to that and being strict on it will actually help you in so many different ways in the long run. Making sure that you're well rested and not tired or sleeping through your classes or exams is very important. If we sleep and wake up at different times every day, we will feel tired, confused, and cranky. So it's not good for studying. Not going to be good for test taking either. So preparing mentally and physically. Similarly, we should eat nutritious meals at the same time every day when it's possible. So maybe it's not possible every day to have lunch at the same time because your classes might get in the way, but around the same time is really good. That way your body knows when it's getting fed.
What happened?
So sorry for that. My internet just crashed. So we are back. There we are. All right. See, it's not just you guys with internet problems with classes and meetings, so don't worry. Happens to everyone. Just need to. Oh, so that is still going. Perfect. So yeah, get your proteins, your carbs, vegetables, of course. You also want to have a regular exercise schedule leading up to the exam. So exercise reduces stress and that helps with the blood circulation to your brain. You want to make sure that you are running or doing some sort of physical activity as often as you can before your exam starts. Here's some simple strategies if you feel stressed during your exam. Write practice tests without notes in a similar environment. It's like a quiet room, or if we're on campus and you're able to find an empty classroom, practicing in there is really good. Avoid other people right before the exam because anxiety is contagious. This is where studying online, virtually, and on your own kind of helps out in one way because you don't have to see everyone waiting outside of the exam room, and you can just be by yourself and enjoy your own thoughts and not worry about what other people have studied or haven't studied. If you feel like you might forget something, write it out first, then move on to the information, then move that information to the correct place later. So sometimes on the back of your exam, you might have a completely blank sheet of paper. So it's good to just sit down, write out everything that you remember at the start, and then you can refer back to that later on and put that exactly where it needs to be in your test. Also, make sure that you are reading the instructions carefully and plan your time for the exam. So if you have 15 minutes for part 1 and then 20 minutes for part 2 and so on, that way you know roughly how long you can spend on each one. And if you notice that you have taken 5 minutes on one multiple choice question, you can remind yourself how long you have and then move on. And at the end of the test, you can go back and quickly choose an answer. Something else that I like to do is write out the long answer or short answer questions first. So whatever takes the most time, do that earlier. Because if you have an exam with multiple choice questions and then an essay, your essay is going to take you longer than a multiple choice question. So if you finish that and you only have maybe 15 minutes left, you have 1 minute to answer each question in your multiple choice and you'll be okay. That way you don't feel rushed, especially in the writing portion. Some more strategies are focusing on the positives. So think about what you know well and visualize yourself doing well on the exam. If you get stuck on a hard question, don't get frustrated. So just skip it and come back to it later. The questions aren't going anywhere and you'll be fine. If you start to feel stressed out, take a quick 30-second break. So close your eyes, focus on your breathing, feel your fingers and toes and legs and arms, maybe give it all a wiggle or a little bit of a stretch, and just focus on how you're feeling and how your body feels, and just remind yourself that you're there and everything is okay. And after the exam, think about what went well during the exam and what you felt good about. I know a lot of people kind of write their exams and move on and they don't give it another thought. But taking a minute to reflect on how the exam went and what went well and maybe what didn't helps us to prepare for the next exam. If you had any trouble, consider these things. Did you remember parts of a question, but not all of it? Was it something you had never seen before? Did you blank during the exam and then remember the answer after you were done? And at that point, if you've answered yes to any of those questions, then you might need to think about how you can change your study strategies for future exams or get professional help for test anxiety. And test anxiety is very, very common. I know a lot of stress gets put on grades and tests, so it's a super common phenomenon that a lot of students encounter. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. If you have anxiety that affects you during exams, you can always talk to me or your peer leaders about strategies to help with test anxiety when preparing for exams. So of course, you can book a one-on-one meetup, message us on WeChat or email, and we are always happy to help. If you live in Ontario and you are a U Waterloo registered student, then you can also book an appointment with U Waterloo Counseling Services. And counseling services can also connect you with any resources in your home country as well, if you are not in Waterloo. They also offer workshops and group counseling. So remember, you can do this. You have gone to class, you know the material, you've learned it, you will be okay. So remember, don't procrastinate. Start your plan now. On your plan, write when, where, what, and how you are going to study. Take care of yourself mentally and physically, and ask for help. Your instructors, friends, family, peers, and all of us staff are here to help you. Every single one of us wants to make sure that you succeed, and we are more than happy to lend a hand if you need one. We have some other helpful resources. I know you can't click the link, but I will also post the slideshow on to the BASE and EFAS hubs on Learn. So you will be able to access it there. And I'll also just upload a bunch of these resources there as well, in case you don't have access to Google. And I just have a quick survey for all of you, if you don't mind. It takes just a couple minutes to fill out. And it's just very helpful for me to know what's gone well and what hasn't. And I'll also try to send the study plan schedule as well. It doesn't look like it is showing up for me. That might just have to come. Yeah, I will just post that on Learn for you guys later. Yeah, we still have about 10 minutes. Does anyone have any questions about studying or test taking? Or if you want to share maybe some hesitations you have about tests or exams? I'll be around for the next 10 minutes. So just let me know if I can help with anything, or if you just want to say hi, please do. And if not, thank you so much for coming, and I will see you all around.